General Secretariat of FUNBIO, and I have the pleasure of moderating this event today with Vitor Salvati from FAS. I thank you all for being here. We are a little bit late, so we would like to start. I acknowledge here the presence of Governor Elder, Governor Mauro Mendes, Vanderlei Barbosa, and Governor Gadson. We are a little bit late, so we're going to reduce the speaker's speech to 5 minutes, but I would like to start by passing the floor to Governor Elder Barbalho. Hello. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to start the climate change debate on the booth of the Interstate Consortium of Amazônia Legal. Greeting here the Governor of Mato Grosso, Governor Mendes, Governor of Acre, Gladson de Lima Carmeli, Governor of Tocantins, Governor Vanderlei Barbosa, and some other governors who are on their way here. I would like to greet the international authorities who are going to take part in this first moment. I would like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation here, and I would like to greet former Minister Isabella. I would like to greet federal representatives and parliament members of the Amazon who are here to watch this moment, representatives of traditional communities who are also here to witness this moment, representatives of the science, representatives of non-governmental organizations, diplomats of Brazil, and the general press who is covering this moment. We're going to have very briefly after this introduction a word of thank you to our colleagues, Governor Valdez Goes, the president of our consortium. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity of representing you in your absence, talk about the relevant I believe this is one of the most relevant points that the subnational state a consortium that will debate economy and forest, debate these topics and their conciliation. Reaching this balance will enable us to fulfill the agenda, the national topics for climate, at the same time as we build the economic and sustainability issues, assisting 25 million Brazilians who live in the Amazon and who hope that their life will go through this conciliation. I would like to restate here the commitment of the national and subnational states towards the reduction of the emissions. Of course, the change in government requires us to discuss with the incoming administration the goals and targets that will be publicized in time, demonstrating the commitment of Brazil. We understand that our country will be again in the center of these discussions with the necessary obligation of readjusting the commitments of Brazil in the environmental and climate agenda, conciliating these agendas with the social agenda as well. I would like here to highlight to the colleague governors, the consortium, the Interstate Consortium of the legal Amazon, Amazônia Legal, highlighting the specificities of each region, either under the strategy of fighting against deforestation and the environmental illegalities, monitoring the control and controlling, but we would like to build this and put together regional strategies, especially cooperation strategies in border areas between our states so that we can consolidate and build with the support and funding of international entities the feasibility of a regional force to fight deforestation with structures, logistics, and funding for the increment of brigades in the Amazon to fight forest fires, and with logistic structure like aircrafts and the necessary infrastructure to fight against illegal acts and environmental crimes. Building an economic transition so that we can the low carbon economy strategy, guaranteeing from the pillar of monitoring, control, and supervision, the sequencing of this triangulation, allowing us land regularization associated with environmental regularization, simulating the standing forest as an economic asset of bioeconomy, guaranteeing our biodiversity associated with the knowledge of the forest, allowing the living forest the standing forest and the living forest are necessary so that we can guarantee the balance of the climate. We need to capture the carbon credits, but at the same time, respect the peoples of the forest, the riverside communities, and ensure that the bioeconomy is the increment and the new pillar of economic vocation for our region. And lastly, we urgently need to adapt to climate change. We all notice in our region the results of climate change. So after this introduction, we need to continue with our debates, our discussions, and we would like to thank you for the opportunity and summon those who are in dialogue with us, especially in Norway, Germany, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and so many other countries who are with us in these discussions so that we can reactivate funding mechanisms, so that we can reactivate the Amazon Fund and other opportunities, starting from the commitment of Brazil towards its protagonism and its environmental commitment, and so that we can conciliate together a sustainable development script that looks at the forest as an asset and looks at the people as people who need to be seen. And this is everybody's unity, the subnational states under the leadership of the Brazilian government. That's what we wish to build, and that's what we wish to ensure. We will ensure that the Amazon is the solution for Brazil and the solution for the planet, and above all, the balance between people and the forest. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Governor. Governor Helder. Thank you very much to the other governors as well. I would like to invite to the stage the first speakers. Unfortunately, we are going to reduce your speeches a little bit, but I would like to invite Andreas Jorgensen, Director of NICFI from Norway. Andreas, please. Jochen Flashbach, Director of Climate, Forests, and Environment from Germany, BZM. Sylvia Hooks, Coordinator of the UN in Brazil. Felice Zakel, the General Director of International Partnerships of EU. While we arrange the speakers on stage, I'm going to pass the floor to Fafá de Belém, who will bring us a powerful voice from the Amazon, the Brazilian singer Fafá de Belém.
Obrigada. Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone. I am very happy and very proud that I'm here to talk about my region, my people, and the importance of the world, having the world looking at us, look at how we work, learn with us so that we can learn with the world. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to greet the governor of the state of Amapá, Mr. Antônio Valdez Goes, Governor Helder Barbalho, governor of my state of Pará, and on behalf of them, I greet all of the representatives of the Consortium of Amazônia Legal. I would like to greet also the representatives of the indigenous people and the traditional communities. I am not a technician, but I was born there. I am 66 years old. I am a singer. I bring with me my city, Belém do Pará, in my last name. And when you exchange your last name to the name of your land is a key part of your life. And you have a huge responsibility for speaking on behalf of it. The Amazon is looked at as a folklore most of the times, as if we don't belong to Brazil and even to the world. Brazil and the world looks at us with a lot more delicacy, with a lot more smoothness. It's like we are Disneyland, where we are caricatures of the project. We are people. We have history. We don't need to be taught how to work. We need to be added to the country. We are always with our arms open, but we need to be looked at as well with the same care that we receive from those abroad. We are not to be tamed because our nature is a rebel. Our nature is strong. We respect all seasonalities. We are seasonal like our fruit. We are voluminous as our rivers, and we require respect. We demand respect. Right now, where all eyes are turned to the Amazon, I'm not going to read the text here because I don't know how to do this, and what we expect is that people look at us with eyes of humanity, not with acultural eyes. We have a lot to give and we have a lot to teach. The Amazon is the cultural center of Brazil. We have the culture to be restored through all of our biomes. We have this whole nature that gives us the cure to the world. And I'm very proud of Governor Helder Barbalho because he is ruling all of this, looking at us, and more looking at the living forest as the only possibility of keeping the standing forest. If we don't respect our people, your role in life their role in life, the way that we look at the world, preserving nature, we're going to be a failure. This moment that we live of excessive pollution and mercury in our water, the person not being able to drink water from the river, we have total responsibility for this. So I ask you to please look at us as one of us. I hope you are one of us. And look in our eyes and understand what is an Indian, what is a quilombola. We are quilombolas, we are Black, we are the mixture of everything, and we need to be looked at as a people, respecting what we are, respecting our knowledge, respecting our activities, our doings, and our being in life. We need your support. But I ask you to please listen to what the people has to say. What are our true needs? We are different because we are people. I'm not going to be able to go to Norway and know how you work. Only if I'm humble enough to hear you. And this humility is what I ask to all of you. When you look at us, we are people. We are Amazonian communities, riverside communities, quilombola communities. And we have a special way of being. If you don't look in our eyes, you'll never know what our needs are. And sometimes an excellent action can be lost because of lack of communication. I'm not a technician, once again. I never studied this, but I was born there. I am from there, and I left there 50 years ago. And I'm searching for 50 years the eyes of each one of you from Brazil, from another country, with smoothness, with humility, with care, with caution. We need your partnership. And we need your partnership. And this partnership must be put together with those who know about us. I would like to sing a little bit of a song, can I? There's a song called Amazonia that was written by a composer of my land. It says, yes, I have the face of the Indian, the flavor of the Tucumã. I have the wings of the Curió. And I date the Yantã. I taste like the Pereba. I am the açaí and I am the big snake. I am the Curupira. It was born in me. I know how to dance the carimbó. I am an Indian from Xingu. I have the strength of Uyaquitã. I am a Boto, a small river. I am the Black River in Tocantins. I was born from the forest. I am the daughter of the jungle. I am the Indian's child. I am from Marajó. Pororoca was born from me. I look like Pará. I have the heat of Tarubá. I am much more. I am Amazonia. I am a Urapuru who dreams. I am much more. I am Amazonia. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Privilégio tê-la, Fafá, aqui não só falando para a gente, mas também cantando.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to listen from Fafá de Belém. Let's start the panel with our representatives.
Nós estamos com tempo reduzido.
Our time is very short, please.
The guiding question. Given that the 9 governors have organized themselves and created a plan for the Amazon as a whole, how can the international cooperation help the subnational governments to put in place the plan that they have designed? Andreas, please.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? And thank you to governors and former Minister Teixeira, all of us here. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and to express our deep commitment to partner with all of you in this in this really important endeavor that you are describing here today. I'm going to do you a favor and not try to sing because I don't think I don't think I will get my messages across in quite the way we just heard. But thank you very much. That was lovely. Brazil has shown perhaps the biggest climate mitigation result in world history in the former Lula presidency. We have now seen a president-elect come forward with signals that they want to repeat this endeavor. That is of huge global significance. And that means that the world needs to step up in every way we can and mobilize the resources and the tools to partner with Brazil and the Brazilian states in a way we have not seen before. We cannot afford not to mobilize the support required to allow the Lula administration to succeed to meet their goals. And of course, the states play such a critical role in that strategy. Your work on all the elements that you put forward in your strategy, be it on the bioeconomy to provide livelihoods and alternative economic opportunities, and to create a rule of law in the Amazon, they go hand in hand and they need support from all of us. There is a tremendous potential in Brazil to grow the rural economy, to grow agriculture with lower deforestation. But to invest in productivity, we need a level playing field where it's not free to enter the forest. And that's why law enforcement is important. But the transition to sustainable agriculture also needs support. And of course, it's about the people. Like you said, it has to start with the people. And so I think all of us in our support need to recognize that and take Brazil's leadership in making sure that everything that the support is doing is supporting the people. And I'm extremely encouraged that the states previously, in 2014, I think in the Rio Branco Declaration, when they asked for increased support, saying that increased support would benefit local communities, indigenous peoples, and quilombolas. They repeated that in Manaus 2 years ago. So the world needs to step up. We want to have the conversation with Brazil to have a broad collaboration on reducing deforestation in Brazil and in the world. We need Brazil to take a global leadership role on this issue, and I'm extremely excited to see the signals coming out of the incoming administration that they want to take this role. Of course, our major collaboration with Brazil has been the Amazon Fund. And I think it is extremely important that that fund is put to good use to support what needs to happen going forward. And of course, there are some steps that we need to go through to allow for the opening of the funds. But the signals that we have seen so far from the incoming government makes me very hopeful that that could be an opportunity in the near future. We've also, in the last few years, expanded our support to all the elements of the strategy to reduce deforestation in Brazil. We're spending, I think, $10 million a year on indigenous people, supporting directly indigenous peoples and local communities in Brazil. We're supporting transparency tools to allow for sustainable agriculture. We're investing in soy and cattle that is reducing emissions from production. And so the whole transition of the positive economy that the states need to see is part of our expanded portfolio over the last years after the Amazon Fund was frozen. But we need to go beyond the Amazon Fund. We need to go beyond the individual projects to the individual strategies. And I think one opportunity that is more promising now than it has been in the past is also the carbon market. It is critical that high integrity carbon finance is targeting the right incentives and paying for robust results, and that it is done in a way that strengthens the opportunity and the rights of indigenous peoples, quilombolas, and local communities. That is one thing I think will be interesting to discuss also here at COP. But I will stop here because I've probably spoken in 5 minutes already. But just to say that we are here to listen. We are here to understand the requirements and the needs and the ambition of the Brazilian government, of the governors, of the communities. And we have an open door, and we would really like to expand our partnership with Brazil going forward and make sure that Brazil can actually deliver and sustain these results to the benefit of Brazil, to the benefit of the states, and the benefit of the people of Brazil, and of course, to the benefit of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and thank you for Norway helps with the Amazon Fund. I would like to now pass the microphone to Silvia Hux, coordenadora da ONU no Brasil, e gostaria de reconhecer a presença do embaixador Antônio Patriota, embaixador brasileiro aqui no Egito. Muito obrigada.
And I'd like to recognize the presence of Antônio Patriota, our ambassador our Brazil ambassador in Cairo. I'm going to speak in Portuguese. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to greet the Governor Valdez Góes, President of the Legal Amazon Consortium, a dear friend of the United Nations. It's a pity he is not here, but we had the opportunities to speak in the state. I'd like to greet everyone else. Can you hear me now? I won't repeat it. But thank you, all governors, and a special greeting for Marcos de Araújo, the Special Secretary of Social Articulation of Segov, and on his behalf, I'd like to greet all the representatives of the government. I'd like to greet Antônio Patriota, the ambassador of Brazil in Egypt, and the representatives of our friends and national institutions, and my dear friends from the United Nations. And a special greeting for the peoples in the Amazon. We have indigenous representatives and also white, black, indigenous people and Quilombo people who are here. The former Minister Isabella Teixeira, it's a great pleasure to be here with you. I'm very comfortable to talk about international cooperation. I've seen the role of the United Nations to promote the united work of all of us. As the president of the UN in Brazil, I am very excited to talk about the sustainable development in the Brazilian Amazon, not only to remember the historical commitment of the UN, but to reaffirm the strategic partnership that the UN system has with the Legal Amazon Consortium and with all the states represented by this consortium. And as the representative of the Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary of the UN, I'd like to start the most relevant week of COP27. I'd like to remind you the words of the General Secretary in the opening of COP when he requested more actions from all countries. We are coming close to the tipping point to limit the temperature in the planet. I'm very happy with the interest in the role of Brazil and the low emissions in the Amazon. But it's key to remember that the low Amazon emissions are not the silver bullet to face the emission problems in Brazil. This threat comes from the emissions of all sectors, mainly the use of fossil fuels from every country. We believe we shouldn't have a merely conservationist view. We must think about the forces moving the deforestation dynamics, and mostly we should have special attention to the people who live and work in the region. We should focus on these people, and this is fundamental for the UN systems and its partners. The discussion on the development parameters are concerning the future for our civilization. We must find a harmonic equation between the production means, the preservation of the environment, and the people's needs. It's the greatest biome in the world shouldn't live with this poverty of the population. We have more than 29 million in the Amazon, the Brazilian Amazon, and in the states of the north, 36% of the people are below the poverty lines. It's a number that is much higher than the national average. And to change that, we must have the efforts of the civil society, the private sector, international cooperation, and the government. The role of international cooperation and climate finance is key, and we must listen from the development needs in the region and the subnational specificities. This is the main reason why we're very proud with our partnership with the Interstate Consortium, the Legal Amazon Consortium, and by observing all the governors who are here, I'd like to say that this platform is the ideal way to promote the dialogue among different sectors and attract the necessary support to have the transformations that the Amazon needs and wants to reach. In the beginning of our relationship, we try to understand the strategic needs in the region, and based on that, and following the spirit of the UN reform, we identified the priority lines for cooperation and the added value of the UN system to support concrete actions such as the plan that was launched in July 2021 by the Legal Amazon Consortium. We're talking about climate finance for the sustainable development, and I'd like to invite you to see the mechanism of finance to support the Amazon in a cooperative way that is the result of the UN system and the interstate consortium and we're going to have an event on here at the Amazon Hub at 4 p.m. and we expect to count with the participation of all the partners and friends of the Amazon. They are willing not only to discuss, but to find concrete action to develop the region sustainably with the natural resources and the people in the place. We shouldn't leave anyone behind. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sylvia. I'd like to give the floor now to Mr. Johann Pasta, the Director of Climate, Forest, and Environment at BZM, Germany. State Secretary.
Are you talking about me? I'm not the Director for Environment.
I'm sorry. I have, you're not Johann Flaschbach.
I am.
Oh, you're not the minister.
I do.
I'm very sorry. I have the wrong,
Hello all together. I hope you can hear me and we have translation now. I couldn't follow parts of that what we heard, but certainly it was right. I'm happy to be here. We have a Germany has a long-standing cooperation with Brazil on the national, but also, can you hear it? Is it translated? No. So shall I continue?
would you, there's no, the translation is not working. I can translate if you like.
So as I said, we have a long-standing cooperation between Germany and Brazil. I'm happy to be here representing the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Was very happy to see my good friend Isabella Teixeira, and also I had meetings with the governors in previous times. And let me say, we don't have a folkloristic view on the Amazon, absolutely not. And we even don't speak about the Amazon being a global public good. It's belonging to Brazil, to the neighboring countries of Brazil. It's belonging to the people in the Amazon. But how we deal with the Amazon has a huge impact on the world and on global public goods, and that is what we want to work together with our friends in Brazil. We were supporters of the Amazon starting back when we were talking about the PPG7. And that was project-based, and that was very much in our genes in Norway and Germany and other countries to look at projects. And then we understood we need to have another approach, and that was when the Amazon Fund was born. It was based on performance. Do you decrease the deforestation, then the money will flow. So it is performance-based, and the regions, the states, the national government do know the best way how to organize these successes. And that is where we want to step in again. I announced already in public that we will get back to the Amazon Fund. Finance is available. It will be available prior to the end of this year. Let me add one point more on the cooperation with the states. It's important because implementation takes place on the ground. So we need to have the governors, your people, the regional governments to make it happen on the ground. And it is also important to have a political conversation. And I remember a meeting with the governors in Madrid at the COP, because there were some concerns. I think we met there. There were some concerns with regard to Article 7, the market mechanism under the UNFCCC. And Europe, Germany, as others insisted that we need highest integrity in the market mechanism. And I think we had a good conversation where I could explain that it was not something against the regions in the Amazon. It was not against, but we want to make these markets happen to get private investments being available, private capital being available also to support sustainable development in the Amazon. Let me finish by saying we are very attracted by the idea, by the phrasing of an economy of the standing forest. That is what we want to see. That is what we want to support. We know that Brazil, the Amazon region, needs to have growth to increase the welfare of people, and therefore we offer a new partnership, a renewed partnership. We were never away, a renewed partnership with our Brazilian friends. Thanks a lot.
Muito resumidamente, primeiro eu gostaria de, I'm sorry, Minister, to have gotten your title wrong. Is the Minister of Cooperation Economics, Ministério da Cooperação Econômica e Desenvolvimento da Alemanha.
It's the Ministry of Economic Development in Germany.
começando com o PPG-7, que foi um programa
Brazil has a long history, starting with GGP7, very important for the tropical forest, and they've contributed to the Amazon Fund, and they will still contribute because the states are building the standing forest. So it's very important to have this direct partnership, and the Legal Amazon Consortium is enabling that. And they are very much interested in this economy of forest, and Germany wants very much to support this forest economy.
So now I would like to pass the word to Felice Zacchio, que é o diretor-geral de parcerias internacionais da EU.
Thank you.
The EU International Director.
It's a big pleasure to be, a great pleasure to be here. I want to thank all the governors. I want to acknowledge the presence of all the, authorities, the panels, the colleagues from the international organization, and also, the representative of the indigenous people. Let me just, because of time, I will try to be very brief, saying that, the commitment of the European Union and the member states in fighting climate change and to, ensure can you hear me now? Okay, and and to ensure a sustainable future to all, and as the colleagues say, and to leave nobody behind. It's a long-standing commitment. It's was reinforced with the Green Deal that we launched in December 2019, and of course reconciling economic growth, jobs, and environment is not only a priority of the EU as such worldwide, but of course it's a priority of our cooperation with Brazil, and it's at the heart of our action, including the hearts that we have regarding the Amazon. In fact, to this end, together with our member states, with the EU institutions, the banks, the development financing institution like the European Development Bank, we are working together to define initiatives associated to what we call the Team Europe initiatives in Brazil. And we have two Team Europe initiatives. One of them is about digitalization, but the second one is on Green Deal. And under this Green Deal Team Europe initiatives, we have established a tropical forest initiatives, which focuses on fighting illegal deforestation, promoting investment in sustainable bioeconomy, and on transparency and traceability in the supply chain. So I think the commitment that we have, the cooperation, especially in the last couple of years on promoting investment in sustainable bioeconomy is strong, and it's also a priority for us because we know this is a priority of the Brazilian government. How do we put basically in action all these political priorities, all this commitment? We have established a strategic vision, the Global Gateway Strategy, that we have it since recently, and this is basically it's in order to form alliance in different sectors with the partners like Brazil, in order to have action in region like the Amazon region, and to boost action not only through regulatory framework, working on policy reform, but also to boost and to try to promote investment in the area. Investment that can be investment that are typical under the cooperation. We have a new instrument that is called the European Fund for Sustainable Development Plus. That's is basically a mix of blending operation and a mix of guarantees of sovereign and sub-sovereign guarantees and we work together with our member states and with our institution, but we also have blending operation in that sense that can help in order to boost investment. And then we have the classical approach, like, you know, the program that has been for 12 years, a flagship program like Euroclima Plus, that is, you know, we worked a lot with Brazil, and we are going to have very soon, early next year, an initiatives of 35 million program dedicated to the Amazon basis, focusing on monitoring and prevention of deforestation. I think this is a very good opportunity to work together with government at all levels, with all the stakeholders that we have, with indigenous people, with the university, with research, and we really want to work and put together all these instruments in order to move ahead the agenda, to move ahead the possibility to have sustainable development, growth, and environmental protection in the region. But this is not the only one. We also have a long-standing cooperation with several projects in the Amazon region. Just I mentioned a couple of them. One is the project Sustenta de Innovat. It's about 5 million euro that is very relevant to support some national government in the fight against deforestation through rehabilitation of wastelands and focus on sustainable agricultural production and development of sustainable value chains in the Amazon region. And the second one, the strengthening of social biodiversity value chain, is a 7 million euro program. And this project aims at strengthening the organization and productive capacity and access to fair and high value added market for forest and agroforestry products of indigenous, extractive and quilombola community in Rio Negro, Xingo Valley and the Ribera. I have a long list. I could talk more about all the action that we do to support the Amazon region, but please be reassured that the European Union remain committed to the region, remain, you know, at disposal to represent a platform also, and to have the platform for the policymakers to see how we can push ahead the agenda. And also we want to work with all our instruments that we have also to see how we can not only protect, not only monitor the deforestation, but create opportunity for a sustainable development and an economic growth in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Só resumindo a fala do Felipe rapidamente, porque ficou um pouco ruim o áudio e a
Just
tradução.
to summarize Felipe's speech, in general lines, the European Union has helped with the decision makers, not only to bring resources from the standpoint of fostering innovation, but he mentioned that there will be a platform specifically for the Amazon for 35 million to work not only with the scientists and indigenous people, but also with other traditional communities to help with environmental conservation.
Thank you very much for the first panelist. We are going to change now to the second group. I would like to recognize the presence of Governador Wanderley Barbosa, que chegou. Como vai, governador? Muito obrigada.
Governor Wanderley Barbosa, thank you very much, Governor. I would like to invite the second group of speakers.
Kate Hughes, ela chegou?
Kate Hughes is here? No? Bruno Cerqueira, Director of Finance and Climate. Minister Isabella Teixeira, Co-President of the International Panel of Resources of the Environment Program of the United Nations. Gabriel Labate, Director of the UN Program FENUMA.
Muito obrigada. Vamos começar então.
Thank you very much. Let's begin. The guiding question is the same as the first phase. The governors of the 9 states of the Amazon region gathered, created the consortium, did a regional planning, and we would like to know how the international cooperation, and in the case of Minister Isabella Teixeira, who is very involved with the UFCCC, how can the governors cooperate with the Legal Amazon initiative? Let's begin then with someone else. Gabriel.
Thank you. Thanks. And thank you very much for this invitation. I'm here on behalf of the UN Environment Program. The UN representative in Brazil, Ms. Sylvia Rooks, spoke before me. She gave an excellent overview of the approach of the UN system to Brazil. She highlighted something that I believe is very important, and it was the issue of social disparities and needs in the Amazon region, highlighting that it is incompatible with sustainable development in the short and the long run. So I would take that, and I would then go into the areas in which UNEP is supporting countries. Before I would say that the issue of conservation of the Amazon is probably one of the most critical issues at the moment that we can put attention on. UNEP highlighted that the goal of 1.5 degrees is almost out of reach. It's quickly becoming science fiction unless radical changes are done in the way we manage societies and ecosystems. 2 degrees is still feasible, but it will require significant actions in the next 7 years to 2030. There are 2 issues that I wanted to share with you on behalf of UNEP. One is finance, and the other one is speed of implementation. On finance, it is difficult, I would say unreasonable, to expect that Brazil can do this alone. There is a need to mobilize public and private finance and do that at a scale much bigger than what we see now. I believe that payments for results, that means Brazil achieving success in its road to decrease deforestation in the Amazon, should be rewarded, and should be rewarded at a price that is commensurate with the cost of doing that, of reducing deforestation in the Amazon and implementing sustainable development with strong social safeguards. So finance that should flow to Brazil rather quickly. In terms of speed, colleagues, the current system is too slow. We need to hurry up. In the report of 1.5, perhaps the main message of UNEP was we are on the right direction, we are at the very wrong speed. So the velocity of travel is key. The velocity with which funds will flow to Brazil is key. We need upfront finance to set in motion all those policy changes. And here, let me stop for a minute. I know that outside this group, there is a sense that slowing down deforestation, that paying somebody to avoid deforestation is to pay somebody to do nothing. And that is a very huge mistake. Brazil has an enormous challenge in front of them. Avoiding deforestation is a complex task. It requires a myriad of actions taken together in synchronicity and with political risk ahead. So let me conclude. From the UN Environment Program, we are committed to support the UN system in Brazil under the leadership of the UN Resident Coordinator, to work on finance, and to speed up the delivery of actions significantly and as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Very short summary, resumo bem rapidinho.
A very short summary of what Gabriel said. He thinks that 1.5 degrees is already science fiction, that we will not be able to get to 1.5 degrees. He thinks the Amazon is important and it needs cooperation of international institutions to reduce deforestation. The UN is willing to help and contribute in this process. And he said 3 times it's important to get funding, and urgently. We cannot wait for longer to tackle this problem. Now I would like to invite Bruna from the UK Embassy.
Muito obrigada pelo convite. Eu vou falar
First of all, thank you very much. I'm going to speak in Portuguese, even though I'm representing the UK government. It's very important to be in this position. I'm going to talk about my perspective as a Brazilian working for the United Kingdom, which is this perspective of approximation of what we can offer in terms of international cooperation and international funding with the demands that we see in the Brazilian context. So first, I would like to greet Governor Mauro Mendes and Governor Helder Barbalho, who are partners of the United Kingdom, Secretary Mauro and the whole team of Pará, who is working very closely with us. I would first bring an international message on how this discussion is right now and how the United Kingdom has tried to support this global discussion on the protection of forests. COP26, when the United Kingdom was the president of COP, the United Kingdom talked about forests and the use of soil. This declaration had a basic message on how we needed to end deforestation until 2030. Brazil signed this declaration. A year later, we had a meeting. We had a new phase of this initiative being launched by a smaller number of countries, but countries that were committed to take this to the practice and take this out of paper. These countries were together announcing that they were going to work with monitoring for the implementation of this and work to talk about which are the instruments, a practical and honest conversation on which instruments are on the table and which instruments still need to be put on the table. And this is the conversation of this new partnership. This is a partnership that we want to have to approximate Brazil, to bring Brazil to this conversation. So at the end of last week, we had a ministry conversation about this. Isabella Teixeira very kindly accepted our invitation to be part of this conversation. I think this is paramount This conversation needs to happen with the federal government, but we need to work so the agenda of forests in the Brazilian context can bring all of the actors that need to be brought to this conversation. And of course, governors are key to this process. I think this is my big message in a global perspective. The United Kingdom also has a very strong bilateral relationship in this conversation. We have a commitment of 11.6 million pounds for climate commitment. We want to dedicate 3 billion for the agenda of forests and 1.5 billion for the agenda of adaptation. This is on paper. In Brazil, we have a little bit more than 3 billion in bilateral programs, for payment for results, for bioeconomy that is working in several states of the Amazon region like Pará. We are covering many fronts. We are covering sustainable agriculture that is working to approximate the ABC plan to implementation. And I think we should advance in our bilateral perspective in bringing private funding. This was a big difficulty that we had throughout the last year when we went to the states to ask which were the priority program for net zero emissions. And we received from several states projects that were not far from what the private initiative needed to include the private initiative in the agenda. And tomorrow we're going to talk about Pará as the first state that were able to approximate the private initiative, and they are receiving now an investment for the restoration agenda. So I think we still need to approximate this and cover this gap that we have to access the private funding, because I think that's where we're going to get the trillions and not the billions, as we said in Glasgow last year. We are committed to keep working with you about this, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruna. Former Minister Isabella Teixeira. Good morning, everyone.
Very nice to meet you in person. Okay, my dear friends from UNEP. Eu gostaria de cumprimentar o governador Jader Barbalho.
I'd like to greet the Governor Helder Barbalho on behalf of all governors, and also my friend Ambassador Everton Barros. One of the most traditional professionals on environment in the foreign affairs in Brazil, always present in the dialogue with the environment and diplomacy. So I'd like to greet him, and the diplomats are finally back with this very sophisticated diplomacy that the world needs. So, Your Excellency, I greet you. And he's back with all the others. And he was responsible for this beautiful architecture at the sub-national level. I would like to go back to PPG7. I negotiated that, and I'm back in time now, understanding that, my dear governors, it's not only that the world is coming to Brazil, but what Brazil means to the world. So Brazil coming back as a leader in the environment, we must define the role of Brazil in the world. So it's very important that all the governors, civil society, traditional populations understand the dimension of this climate agenda. It's an agenda that will lead the development of the century. It's not only an environmental agenda with the triple crisis of the planet, but has a geopolitical dimension, economic dimension, with innovation, technology, and this is strategic for the development. So we must find different pathways to improve that in the world, understanding the limits that the nature is imposing to us. And the limits are very clear with the average increase of 1.2 degree. We are not coming from 0.7, 0.6 increase. We are in 1.2. We are reaching this point. This 1.2 that will go to 1.5, and we won't get this 1.5 only. And the issue of the Amazon is even more important now because there's no 1.5, 1.6, or 1.7 with no standing forest, no standing Amazon. And this strategic element for the climate agenda is responsibility not only to the Amazon, but to Brazil. Without this standing Amazon, we won't have a standing Brazil, or we are going to have a more vulnerable Brazil. So this is the message for the governors who are leaders in the development of food, in the production of food. Brazil is strategic for food safety. And without this leadership being updated to be able to deliver in the future, promoting trade and food safety and so on, we cannot discuss strategy. Things should go hand in hand. We have to connect climate with the eradication of poverty, food security, and energy security, and water security. I was talking about security. This is strategic for climate. We are in a very different moment from Rio 92, when we negotiated the climate regime. Then I had the honor to lead the Brazilian delegation in the Paris Agreement. The geopolitical conditions from 7 years ago have radically changed. If we take the picture from 2015, it's not the same picture now. And that's why the General Secretary of the UN is calling for this 2024 Future Summit. So we must understand in the short run this future vision. 1.6, 1.7 degrees or below 2 degrees as negotiated in Paris means that we must start with 1.2 degree. So the finance must come in the short run, exactly to promote a change that may enable this robust strategy in the future with no setbacks. The regenerative agriculture must be such that we won't import food anymore, and this strategic decision must be made now in this development race towards low carbon. And next year we are going to reform Bretton Woods International with the IMF, multilateral banks. I participated in meetings at this COP to discuss that, and we're going to reform the international finance system, because when it was created, there was no climate change, and now we have that. Now I am affirming that all of you are going to think about the strategy of the standing Amazon together with this industrial transition strategy in the Amazon, with the standing forest and transforming the people there to be competitive with low carbon. In the case of mining and cattle raising, before I export meat with no deforestation, this food must be consumed by Brazilians with no deforestation, because 75% of the meat produced is consumed in Brazil. So Brazil must be in this agenda, and we must have the different alliances that have shaped the relationship of Brazil with the world. For more than 150 years, we have peaceful relationships with our neighboring countries. It's a constructive and creative society, and the finance must come also towards the strengthening of democracy. Climate and democracy means having representativeness in the National Congress, and this is not a left-wing agenda. This is the agenda of a more just country that knows its development ways, a world that has its importance in the world. Brazil is very important for the world to reach this peaceful path. Climate and peace is a challenge that the President Lula is going to bring forward with the strength of Brazil. We are all together in this diversity with this country, with an ambition of leaving the setbacks behind. Deforestation must be banished, and we must develop the new equations of development that step by step will take us to this low carbon economy with social justice with no setbacks. This is the leadership of the Brazilian people, showing that these brown people are showing its own value. With our ambiguities, with the certainty that it's a path for the future. We are going to be a better country in the future with a lot of work from right now. It's a leader voice of this new Brazil. The standing Amazon means Brazil, the standing Brazil. Thank you so much. Let's move on. I'd like to thank the different panelists, Bruna, Isabella, Gabriel. And now to conclude this panel, I'd like to call the different governors, not only the governor Helder, but also Mauro Mendes, and also Gladson Camelli, Vanderlei Barbosa, Marcos Rocha. And I'd like to emphasize what Governor Helder said in the beginning, considering the commitment and conciliation.
Bruna, você deixou a bolsa. Uma informação de logística, quem precisa de tradução?
If you need translation, it's channel 1, both for English and for Portuguese. Now, with the governors, Governor Gladson, please come take your seat. What was said before, Governor Helder brought commitment, conciliation, and respect. 3 important words that was emphasized by the singer Fafá de Belém, by the international partners and the platform. Now with the governors, I'd like to call not only Governor Gladson, Vanderlei, Mauro, and Helder, but to talk about the role of the governments with the recent lessons, how we can observe everything that was brought in the first panel and the second panel, understanding not only equity, but climate justice and the development that our states need in the Amazon. Governor Gladson, you're going to be first. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to greet the governors and all the different teams from the states. And our challenge is big in terms of conception and understanding what we must know. First, preserve and generate jobs and income with sustainability. I've been trying to use this word so that we can think about the 25 million inhabitants of the Amazon. Governor Casagrande, I greet you. The election is over. We're now here signaling a new government, strengthening the sustainable and environmental policies, and each state must put in practice what we decided to do. For that, we need the Amazon Fund agenda and the finance that are needed for the projects that we presented. Acre is going to take over with the certainty that will fulfill all the commitments that were defended by the state. And we must be united, thinking about generating income and jobs to our people, diminishing the deforestation numbers and so on. So I hope we have a great debate. Thank you so much. Thank you, Governor. Before passing the floor to Governor Vanderlei, I'd like to invite Governor Casagrande to be part of the panel. He's also a global leader on environment in Brazil. Governor Vanderlei, you have an important role. And what is the context of Brazil right now? Thank you, everyone. I'd like to greet the governors, Governor Elder, Mauro, Casagrande, Cameli. I'd like to greet everyone who is here participating in this very important COP. And we have been developing our homework. But Governor Mauro, we won't be alone. We know the size of the Brazilian population and the importance of the world population. The world needs food, and we must establish policies for that. In Tocantins, we are careful with the greenhouse gases emissions. We have two distinct periods in Tocantins. We have rains for 6 months and we have drought for 6 months. And our biome is the Cerrado, that is representing 89% of our territory. And Cerrado was covered by this grass that is easily burned. And from August to October is the most sensitive season for us, and we must develop this task force. We have a project that is called Focus on Fire, and we have our different secretaries who are leading this project. And we've been diminishing the fires, but we don't have the resources for carbon credit. But we want to have finance. We must maintain the riverside population with these incentives. So this partnership with the international partners is key for us to finance. The other nations do not have their green cover anymore, and Tocantins has a lot of green. In our territory, we have 9 APAs, and we have 3 huge parks. They've proposed to diminish the size to increase the production, but the government has been resisting. We've been careful with the environment. So we must be supported by international entities. We have ongoing projects. We have entities who are willing to buy our carbon, but we must evolve. So this concern must be a concern of all. We don't want to increase the temperature, and we don't want the greenhouse effect to increase. We must help the Brazilian states. We must grow in our productive sector. Tocantins is the youngest state in Brazil, and the productive sector has been increasing. We've been investing in infrastructure, but we need compensation. This is the right word, so that we can develop new projects. We have Narubia here. She is an indigenous activist, and she came with us because we've seen propositions from Tocantins to use the preserved areas and the indigenous lands. But we don't want that. We want the reserves to be maintained, but we must maintain the indigenous peoples and the Quilombo peoples, our traditional communities. And we are here with this great team, Marli, Miyuki, Karine, our secretaries, Jairo, Mariano, Humberto, our federal representatives and state representatives, and the hard work being made. To wrap up, the same way as the Amazon, Tocantins wants to be a reference in sustainable policies, and for that to happen, we need finance. So I'd like to thank you all, governors and the organizers of this event and the audience, because we need to maintain or improve what's going on. And for that, we need partnerships in the policies of environmental sustainability.
Governador Mauro Mendes,
Thank
saudar
you
aqui
very much, Governor. Before passing the floor to Governor Mauro Mendes, I would like to talk to Governor Marcos Rocha. Mato Grosso, such a prosperous state, talking about agriculture. What is your view on environmental conservation, agriculture, indigenous people, everything that Mato Grosso has done in recent times? Good morning, everyone. I would like to greet all of the governors here, ladies, gentlemen, guests, delegations of all states. We are united here, participating on the 27th World Conference on Climate. In the beginning, the idea of global warming was a theory defended by a line of researchers and scientists around the planet. Time has passed, and unfortunately, this theory was confirmed. And today, some divergences are if we are going to increase 1.5 or 2 degrees in our temperature. But around the planet, we could all notice that there is a change happening in climate. The impact of that in human life is going to be something that maybe many could not be able to grasp or maybe see the size of. The world economy now has a new word of order, which is a low carbon economy. Facing this concept, most of the planet was the responsible ones for that. They are, and they will always be, the big emitters of carbon. We are very far from what is necessary to face the challenge that puts our humankind at risk. Talking about the Amazon is easy. I'm here in this panel and in this meeting representing the state that is one of the biggest producers of food, that represents 70% of all the food that is produced. I was making a comparison these days. I was comparing the biggest producers of food, the United States, China, and I compared to Brazil. And I took the 3 states that are in these countries, the biggest producers of food, and I made a quick comparison. In Brazil, Mato Grosso is the biggest producer of food and preserves 62% of its territory. In the United States, California preserves only 26%. In China, the province of Hubei is the biggest producer, and it preserves only 11% of its territory. So we need to do what we do here seriously in this conference and all conferences that came after this one. In the Paris Agreement, the countries made a big commitment of allocating resources to help the countries under development to improving their practices, but much more than their money. We want their respect towards what we are and what we do as Brazilians. Besides producing food for the world, we are today the country that has the biggest net exports of food to other countries in the world, and we have great environmental assets. We cannot take being treated as an ugly duckling by the world. The respect and the truth have to be put on the table so that everything that is being said and everything that is being built can effectively bring results to us Brazilians and to all citizens in the world. And that is how my state and that is how our Amazon can collaborate. I don't come here only after resources, but I come here to speak the truth and to put the truth above everything in this discussion so that we can have respect for what we are and the importance that we have within this environmental agenda. Let's all do our part. Brazil already is doing our part and Amazon is doing its part, and they have to do their part, allocating the big resources and not only crumbles as it happens many times. And that is how we're going to build true transformation that can save the planet with climate, and we're going to save the planet from a big epidemic caused by hunger. Thank you very much, Governor. Now let's pass the floor to Governor Casagrande, a friend of the Amazon. Governor Casagrande, in your leadership position, how do you see this in this political and economic context, and how can we change to a low-intensity environment? Just to be here in the Amazon Consortium already shows the change in behavior and the change in commitment. Governor Helder, congratulations for coordinating here with us. Governors, this debate and this event, but besides Helder, the presence of Governor Vanderlei from Tocantins, Governor Gladson from Acre, Governor Claro from Mato Grosso, Governor Marcos Rocha from Rondônia. The presence of the governors here from the Consortium of Amazonia is a clear demonstration of the importance of the consortium and the work that the consortium does. 4:30, we're going to be here at the space of the entities of civil society with other leaderships of the sustainability world. You are all invited so that we can debate another more comprehensive action than a space like this, a debate about the future of the planet. This debate is a very important debate for us. It's no longer a responsibility from the federal government. It's no longer a responsibility of the President of the Republic. It's a responsibility of the subnational entities. We have a strong movement that involves the governors. It is a coordination of the climate governances by the states. It's the construction of a consortium, the Green Brazil Consortium, that is added to the Amazon Consortium, that is added to the Northeast Consortium. We're sure that each state should and must collaborate. Fabio Feldman is here with us. CBC is going to coordinate for us this debate that starts at 4:30 p.m. So we're going to talk about the role of each state to help Brazil achieve what we have agreed in Paris in 2015. The NDCs of Brazil must be sought by the federal government, and we states must supervise deforestation, must assist in the energy transition, must carry out transition works, must carry out the carbon sequestration. We have very important roles that we should develop locally, searching for funding. The debate of COP27 approaches topics that the countries cannot agree upon yet. Mauro mentions the funding. Would the funding be for countries that have their natural heritage protected? How can the countries that advanced from destruction fund countries like ours that still have their natural resources preserved? That is the role of the carbon market, but the carbon market still not regularized. Brazil, for example, will advance in its policy of carbon markets. That is a very important task. President Lula will be here starting tomorrow, so that will be an opportunity for us governors to show to President Lula the agenda that is interesting for us regarding the carbon market. We have to build in each state our carbon neutral plan that will collaborate for the country to achieve its NDCs, and that will allow us to search for national funding in this area. We are in the new moment with a different culture where we are very objectively entering this debate in the Brazilian society so that we can fulfill our obligations and search for solutions so that we can reach our goals and collaborate for the protection of our planet. So participating here today with the engagement of the governors is an opportunity that we have to give our contribution to the Brazilian society and the world society. Thank you very much and congratulations. Thank you very much, Governor Casagrande. And I invite Governor Marco Rocha to talk a little bit about the role of leadership that you had in your state, not only in terms of protection of the areas, but in terms of transition and carbon economy. My name is Marcos Rocha. I am the governor of the state of Rondônia, and I would like first to congratulate the Brazilian government that has worked for the payment for environmental services. This was an innovation. We also have the situation of the carbon market that we have discussed since last year. We are also updating the deforestation plan. Rondônia is a very strong state. We have great companies there. The agribusiness that helps us sustain for the world. The food also comes from Rondônia as well as Mato Grosso, and it goes to the rest of the world. It feeds Brazil. I think the same way as Governor Mauro Mendes. We need to preserve the environment. This is a need. We need to work to protect the environment without forgetting the original peoples, without forgetting those who live off the land. Thinking this way, we created the first carbon credit reserves in Brazil. We have Rio Preto Caltário and also Jacundá, Rio Jacundá. People who live inside the reserves that were forgotten today are working in partnership and have income that comes from foreign companies, and they are responsible for the protection of this environment. Today they work there and they are compensated for it. That was an important change that happened in 2019 that is evolving in the state. This is something important for all states so that we can preserve and at the same time allow people to eat and to work, to survive. I was listening to Governor Mauro Mendes, and I agree with him when he says that we are preserving 60% of the forests, and we need to have the appropriate remuneration of this. We need to treat this well, so those who destroyed have to pay for it so that we can use our reserves and have the environmental control. The population has to be understood, respected, and they have to survive. Rondônia is ready to help The consortium has been very important in this sense. I would like to greet all of my friends here, Governor Helder, Governor Mauro Mendes, Governor Gladson, and I'd like to say that we are ready to work in this sense. This is a process that cannot be delayed. God bless you and thank you very much. Another important thing is about the partnerships. We are open to funding. We're open to resources from abroad, but respecting our peoples and respecting our population. Thank you very much, Governor. And to conclude this panel, and to finish a week that will be inspiring and prosperous, I will pass the floor to Governor Helder, and after Governor Helder, we will start the press conference so that you can all have access to the governors. Once again, good morning, everyone. I would like to thank all of the panelists that took part in this first panel. I would like to thank Fumbio. I would like to thank the governors, Governor Gladson, Governor from Acre, Governor Vanderlei Barbosa from the state of Tocantins, Governor Mauro Mendes from the state of Mato Grosso, Governor Marcos Rocha, Governor from the state of Rondônia, and thank you very much, Governor Casagrande. He is the most Amazonian from the federal States Governor of Espírito Santo. I would like to thank all of the ones that represent the press, the parliament representatives who are here today, the indigenous and Quilombola representatives as well, representatives of science and research. I would like to greet everyone else who is here. And to conclude, I would like to complement some of the remarks that were being made here in terms of partnerships, international partnerships, and highlight the attention to some comments on the challenge that was mentioned here. We have a region that encompasses more than 50% of the national territory, and we are aware of the challenge and the protagonism of the Amazon for the climate agenda and the commitments of our country. We continuously warn that we who live in the biggest rainforest of the planet, in the largest water basin in the world, we also have a population of over 25 million Brazilians and a completely heterogeneous Amazon. In Acre, in Tocantins, in Mato Grosso, and in Rondônia, there are different realities from Amazonas, for example, that have over 80% of their territory preserved. In the same state of Pará, and it's over 1 million square kilometers, we have different realities. The reality of Marajó is different than the Cerrado reality. That requires us to have different looks, specific and strategic looks to different regions. But the fact is, we have to build a conciliatory agenda. We cannot here give up on the protagonism of the Amazon for the climate agenda. We cannot say that the Amazon represents the solution for Brazil. We have to conciliate the different realities of the Amazon for the solution of Brazil. We have to conciliate the social realities of the Amazon for Brazil, especially for those who need income, those who need education, those who need access to health, access to essential services. This is the dilemma of living in the biggest water basin in Brazil. But we still have low rates of access to water and access to sanitation. That's why it's important to have in this COP multilateral agents. I wish in this COP we can have assertive solutions that we are all anxiously looking for. I hope that we can focus on the climate change, and I hope that we can find here the legal framework to make effective the solutions that are being proposed. I had the opportunity to be in Spain in COP25, and then in Glasgow in COP26, and we are here in Egypt in COP27. What was being discussed in Madrid is no longer what is being discussed in Egypt due to the aggravation in the environmental scenario.
Já não seja mais o suficiente para o equilíbrio do clima.
Regretfully notice that 1.5 degrees not enough for the climate, and zeroing emissions is not enough. We must recover degraded areas. We are not able to have the effective proposition of the market regulation, the carbon credit market regulation, so that we can transform the main asset for this agenda in a currency guaranteeing the standing forest so that it can be the new commodity of the planet. May we ensure the combat against the illegal activities, fighting that with the law and the strength of the state. And on the other hand, we must propose solutions so that we are not only curbing, so that we don't have to use the law enforcement, but we should convince the local society. Renegotiating the present and the future so that Mato Grosso won't be sacrificed, leaving its position as the main producer of food, guaranteeing the food security in Brazil and the world, so that Mato Grosso can optimize with the intensive activity, but that Pará, which has a meaningful stock of its forest, or the Amazon, can conciliate agriculture and cattle raising in a sustainable way, sustainable mining, with the standing forest as the new asset that will be in the economic portfolio of our region. That's why the state of Pará, and by closing, I'm going to talk about my state specifically. Pará will have the opportunity to have its bioeconomy plan presented so that bioeconomy is the new greatest asset for generating jobs and opportunities, so that we can launch our REDD+ system, being a a prepared state with the legal framework to receive the resources coming from the reduced emissions due to the carbon sequestration, so that the different nations can enable solutions engaging people, past vocations, future vocations. Forest knowledge can all be brought together in favor of the Amazon, elevating Brazil's protagonism. This is the intention of the Legal Amazon Consortium that is putting together states from the same region, but that are distinct and must be respected with their own peculiarities and distinctions. But all of us are united, even with our differences, local differences, ideological differences, and conceptual differences. But all of us with this responsibility, this honorable responsibility. The Amazon is not a problem. The Amazon is a solution. And Brazil, from this new administration that is coming, could count with the Legal Amazon Consortium as an ally, so that all of us, civil society, subnational governments, and federal government, can put Brazil at the center of the discussion, so that we can have a global call, so that the world can see Brazil as a solution for the planet and a solution for Brazilians. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, governors. Thank you for your presence. I'd like to invite you to a coffee break outside while the governors are going to have a press conference. The other guests can go to the coffee break region. Thank you.